We're back with Julianna Margulies, who has a new play based on the life of Delia Ephron.
Based on Delia Ephron's memoir called Left on 10th.
Left on 10th, yes. So tell me about it.
So Left on 10th chronicles what happened to Delia. And by the way, for the record, and I was wrong, so I'm just going to correct the whole world. I've always said Nora and Delia Ephron. It's not. It's Ephron.
Ephron.
I learned it the hard way in rehearsal.
Ephron?
Yeah,
Ephron.
it's
We've been
Ephron,
saying it
like
wrong as
epinephrine.
well.
Everyone has been.
Yeah.
It's Delia Ephron.
I've said Nora Ephron
I know.
my entire
and that's okay.
to her face.
You know, we all have. We all have. But it's Ephron. Anyway.
Ephron.
It's spelled Ephron, so you're not.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up.
Well, too late.
So what happened to Delia was Nora died in 2012 of myelodysplastic syndrome, which is a disease of the bone marrow. And in 2012, she couldn't find anyone that was her match to be a donor.
Yeah.
Delia was her match. They were very, very close, and Delia was her match. But when they tested Delia's blood, a couple of her numbers were a bit wonky, and they had to do a bone marrow biopsy on Delia. And it turns out she wasn't exactly sick, but she was potentially sick. So she couldn't be Nora's match for a stem cell transplant.
Oh my gosh.
So Delia is now living with having to go to Weill Cornell Medical Center every 6 months to have her blood drawn to make sure everything's okay. In 2015, 3 years after Nora died, Delia's husband of 33 years died of prostate cancer. And she suddenly was left alone on 10th Street, which is sort of Left on 10th is also the street she lives on.
Right.
She always would tell a cab driver, when you get to 10th Street, take a left. So there's a lot of symbolisms in Left on 10th. Anyway, she finally, after 6 months of Jerry Cass was her husband, Jerome Cass was her husband who died, she finally disconnected his landline. When she disconnected his landline, Verizon crashed her internet. And she could not get one person on the phone from Verizon. Everything was, you know, a prompt, press two further.
Automated.
And finally, she got so fed up that she, being an Ephron, wrote about it. And it was called Love and Hate on Hold with Verizon.
Amazing.
And it was published in the New York Times, and it went viral.
Yeah.
Of course, the day after it was published, Verizon showed up at her house.
Of course.
Gave her a phone number that was direct. She'd never need to use another prompt again. And all of a sudden, she has her emails up now because she's getting her internet. And she gets an email through her website. She's an author, so she has a website. She gets an email through her website from a man who had dated her when she was 18 that Nora, her sister, had fixed her up with.
Oh, wow.
And the email said, we actually knew each other years ago. Your sister Nora set us up. My wife just died, and I read your op-ed, and I had the same problem with Verizon. And they start, now, just to let everyone know, Delia Ephron wrote You've Got Mail, which is a rom-com about falling in love over email.
Right.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
Wow.
And she suddenly is falling in love with this man who lives in San Francisco over email.
Wow.
And he flies to New York, and they fall madly in love. And just when they're just like, oh my God, this is happening, she gets diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome.
Oh, God.
The amazing thing about all of this, and the hope and the joy of this whole play that I'm doing, and you can just see it and feel it in the audience's reactions, is that she's told, now it's 2016, so 4 years after. Science is amazing because she no longer needs a match, because what they do now is something called a haplocord transplant, which is they take stem cells from an adult donor and stem cells from a mother who's donated her baby cord after giving birth. Now, the baby stem cells, there aren't enough of them. So they use the adult donor until the baby stem cells create enough of them, and then the adult donor fades away, and you end up with a baby's bone marrow, basically.
Right.
And when she hears about this, she says to the head of the transplant, his name is Dr. Cohn Van Bazine, she says, well, what are the odds? And he says, it's a 20% chance. So then you hear that, and also there's really, you know, it's a very tricky thing because transplants, your body rejects them.
Sure.
You go through what's called graft versus host diseases. Horrible things can happen, and she knows all this because she went through it all with Nora.
Nora. Yeah.
So she decides to do it, and her husband, Peter Rutter, who happens to be a Jungian psychoanalyst, and he went to med school.
Right.
So he knows all about haplocord transplants, and he stays with her in the hospital for 100 days.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
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 And her book originally was going to be called O to A, and then she changed it to Left on 10th. O to A, which we talk about in the play, he walks in after she's gone through this horrific time, and she says, "What's new?" And he says, "O to A." And she goes, "What's that mean?" You walked into this hospital a type O, and now you're a type A.
Type A, wow.
And she says, "Does that mean I made it?" And he goes, "That's exactly what it means."
Wow.
Wow.
And Peter Gallagher plays your husband in this?
So, yes. Thank God. So I get to play with Peter Gallagher on stage every night, and then there's two other incredible actors. Peter Gallagher and I play Delia and Peter. There's a lot of Peters in this play.
Yeah.
Peter Gallagher plays Peter Rutter, and then Peter Francis James, who's also an actor in the play, plays all the other male parts, and then Kate McCluggage plays all the other female parts. And when we come out for our bow at the end of the play, everyone's waiting for more people.
Yeah.
Kate has 26 quick changes.
Wow.
18 of them have to be done in under 30 seconds.
Wow.
And that includes wigs. So it is such a joyful, emotional roller coaster of a ride of a play.
Do you know what's so interesting?
What?
I'm going to say something right now.
Uh-oh.
You tell a story, and you tell the story of the story like you are an Ephron, but with the medical institutional knowledge
I'm an
of an ER doctor.
I'm an ER doctor.
So, I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know about you all, but I feel a lot smarter having had this segment. I can't wait to see this. Left on 10 is on Broadway at the James Earl Jones Theater. Go see Julianna Margulies in Left on 10.